Hi, I'm Sharmaine. Welcome to Curiosity Over Fear, where we have the difficult conversations about overcoming fear with courage and curiosity. So, whether you're looking to change something with your career or just everyday life, I invite you to join me on this journey to be less fearful and more daring. Welcome back to Curiosity Over Fear. Today, we're going to talk about something not a lot of people like talking about, and that's politics. I was actually afraid to talk about politics on my podcast because it's such a messy, divisive topic. And let's be real, people can get heated. I mean, in my own family, I've seen relationships strain just because someone found out the other person was a Democrat or a Republican. My own father literally stopped talking to my older brother for months over it. Like, was that really necessary? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that not talking about it would go against everything Curiosity Over Fear stands for. Because at the end of the day, this podcast is all about shifting away from reactionary fear and toward deeper understanding. And right now, there's a lot happening in America that's being driven by fear of change, fear of others, fear of losing power. So today, we're going to talk about what's happening, but more importantly, we're going to talk about how fear versus curiosity shows up, even in politics. Because the way we react to politics isn't all that different from how we react in relationships. Let's break it down. Let's start with one of the biggest, most heated topics immigration. If there's one thing that's been a consistent talking point, it's the idea that immigrants are a threat. We hear things like, they're taking our jobs or they're bringing crime. And the response? Mass deportations, tighter borders, policies built on shutting people out. I think it's also funny to hear people who were once immigrants themselves say the same thing. I know a few family members that agree with the sentiment of keeping them out. I just scratch my head in disbelief, asking, that was once you, so how could you feel that way? It's this, it doesn't affect me, so it doesn't really matter mindset. But the minute it affects them, oh, I know for sure they would not stop complaining about it. I remember my cousin telling me how my auntie and uncles found out that she was a Democrat, and when they asked her what she thought about immigrants, she replied with, let them in! They were so flabbergasted. But here's the thing, this reaction isn't really about facts, it's about fear. Fear of the other, fear of change, fear that if someone else gains something, we lose something. But at some point, we have to ask, are we actually in danger, or are we just conditioned to be afraid? What if we asked, why are people coming here? What's happening in other countries that makes them leave everything behind? Because most people don't just wake up one day and decide, hey, I think I'll risk my life crossing a border today for fun, or hey, I think I'll just leave the only home I've ever known my whole entire life and my culture and just completely get rid of that part of who I am. There's always a deeper story. But if we never ask the questions, we'll never understand it. And honestly, this happens in personal relationships too. Think about when someone new enters your life. Maybe a new coworker, a new partner in a friend group, or just a new friend in a friend group. Ever felt that twinge of jealousy or unease, like they're going to replace you? That's fear talking. But when we push past that fear and get curious, we usually realize they aren't a threat at all. Same thing with immigration. If we stay stuck in fear, we just build walls, like literally and figuratively. But if we lean into curiosity, we actually open a door to connection. And here's something I've come to realize. When we actually take the time to understand where people are coming from, we start to see what really motivates them. And when we understand that, we realize Most of us actually want the same things. We just have different ideas about how to get there. For example, at first glance, the debate over immigration seems like two completely opposing views. One side wants stricter borders, the other side wants to welcome immigrants. But when you really break it down, both sides actually care about the same core thing, which is safety, security, and making sure their families and communities are okay. One side believes safety comes from keeping people out to protect existing resources, and the other believes that safety comes from inclusion and opportunity, because when people are given a chance, they contribute to a society rather than being a burden. So often, we get caught up in the how policies should be written, how resources should be distributed, and how we think things should be handled, that we don't stop to realize that we're actually fighting for the same fundamental things. And if we can recognize that, we'd stop seeing each other as enemies and start seeing each other as people who just took different roads to the same destination. Now let's talk about DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion. DEI programs are designed to create more opportunities for historically excluded groups like people of color, women, and individuals from marginalized backgrounds, whether in workplaces, schools, or leadership positions. The idea behind DEI is that certain groups have faced systemic barriers for generations. So these programs aim to level the playing field, offering things like scholarships, hiring initiatives, or policies that promote fair representation. But recently, there's been a big push to roll these programs back. Some argue that DEI creates a reverse discrimination, that by prioritizing diversity, it unfairly takes away opportunities from others. Others claim that DEI lowers standards, assuming people are hired or accepted based on race or gender instead of qualifications. And then there are those who believe DEI is about exclusion at all. It's about removing barriers that never should have been there in the first place. And the core of this controversy, fear. Fear that if some groups gain opportunities, others will lose them. It's that scarcity mindset. Like, if we make space for more people at the table, there wouldn't be enough for me. But here's the thing, what if the table just got bigger? What if fairness and opportunity aren't pie slices, but something we can expand? And this mindset shows up in relationships too. Think about when a friend, partner, or coworker started growing in a way that made us uncomfortable. Maybe they're succeeding in ways that we aren't, or changing in ways that we don't recognize. Sometimes, instead of celebrating them, we pull away. Or worse, we try to bring them down. But what if, instead of fearing their growth, we got curious? What if we asked, how can we grow together? Or what can I learn from this person that can help me grow and also get better? That's the shift from fear to curiosity. This is exactly why I appreciate people who lead with curiosity instead of judgment. I remember a time when a new president was about to be elected, and there was so much divide between the two political parties. My friend Kathleen did something that really stuck with me. Instead of only reading up and updating herself with political views she already agreed with, she adjusted her social media feed to include more of the opposing viewpoint. She wanted to better understand the other side. And I remember thinking, damn, that's incredible. Because instead of bashing the other party or trying to convince them of her beliefs, she made the conscious choice to listen and learn. That's the kind of openness we need more of. I also remember a good friend of mine, Annie. She told me how her family would have dinner conversations about politics, and not everyone had the same views. But they would get into these intense discussions, and yet the conversations always remained respectful. I asked her how they managed to keep things civil when so many families, like mine included, can't even bring up politics without someone walking out. She said, "We just listen. No one's trying to win. No one's trying to prove the other person wrong. We're just trying to understand each other." And damn, imagine if more people approach conversations like that. Okay, one last example. Ukraine. Trump is negotiating with Putin to try to end the war, which is great. But here's the issue: he's doing it without including the people of Ukraine in the conversation. Now, politics aside, can we just talk about how wild that is? It's like making a decision about a relationship issue without talking to the person directly involved. The same thing happens in personal relationships all the time. We avoid hard conversations. We make decisions on behalf of people instead of with them. And then we wonder why things fall apart. Look, I know politics can feel exhausting. It's tempting to just shut it all out, to roll our eyes and think, I don't want to deal with this. But whether we like it or not, these policies affect our lives. And the way we react to them isn't all that different from how we handle our relationships. So, can we talk about politics without losing friends? Honestly, it depends. If we lead with fear, if we assume the worst, shut down, and make the other the enemy, then yeah, politics will definitely tear us apart. But if we lead with curiosity, if we actually listen, ask better questions, and try to understand what motivates people, then the answer is yes. We can talk about politics without losing friends. And not only that, we can actually strengthen our relationships in the process. At the end of the day, whether it's politics or personal relationships, fear divides us, curiosity connects us. So here's my challenge to you. This week, when you feel the urge to react, take a moment to pause. Ask yourself, what might I not know here? Because when we choose curiosity over fear, we create a world and relationships built on understanding instead of division. If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to leave me a review so that I can send you a free Curiosity Over Fear sticker. Then, after writing the review, claim your free gift by taking a screenshot and sending it to me via direct message on Instagram at Curiosity Over Fear. Thank you for joining me this week on Curiosity Over Fear. If you haven't already, subscribe so you can get a reminder to tune in every other Thursday for new episodes. And remember, always ask yourself, what would be possible if you led with courage and curiosity?